What's up, everybody? It's George Gabriel. Do not use Logic's mastering assistant. Instead, do this. Now, we all know that mastering is the last step in a process where we have either an album or a song where we want to make sure it's loud enough, that the EQs are correct, and that wherever that mix goes, it sounds good, whether it's in a car or in somebody's stereo or wherever it is. Now, big artists use mastering studios to master their album to make sure from track to track everything is cohesive, that it sounds like it's the same body of work. But mastering is an expensive process. Why? Because it takes trained engineers with tuned rooms, very expensive equipment, and a lot of understanding where things in a mix need to be addressed as far as maybe phasing or EQ or maybe Red October moments, those subwoofer things, or generally just keeping a mix cohesive from song to song on an album, making sure the next song isn't too low or that it has a totally different EQ or feel. So it's a very specific process. Enter Logic's mastering assistant. Now, on first glance, you would think, oh, it shows up on my stereo and it says mastering, because it doesn't say mastering assistant, it says mastering. So you would be led to believe that, oh, this is going to master my track. And it's just a one-button solution. I've never really been a fan of one-button solutions. Why? Because how is it to know exactly what genre of music you are, how delicate the track is? Maybe it's jazz, maybe it's metal, maybe it's EDM, who knows? So a one-click solution is really not a great idea because you put all this time into this track, and how does it know exactly what you want it to sound like? Instead, I think there's a much better solution that is more custom tailored to what you want, and that is using a series of Logic stock plugins to do the mastering that is needed to get your track to the level that you want. And that's what we're going to discuss in this video. So let's take a look. So I'm choosing this track that I did with Parker Coppins of Disney XD's Parker Plays, and later YouTube's Parker's Place, where he did a song on mental health, and this is the vocals that he did on it, and I did live guitars and bass and drums, as well as some keyboards, and really it has all the elements for a good mastering track, because it has real live instruments and it also has synth elements. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I use the tabs mixing method, which is tracks, auxiliaries, buses, and stereo out. And what that means is I collect all like-kind instruments on buses, and really that's where the mixing begins, because you pre-master on that level. So all the drums are getting mastered by using compression and EQ on their own bus, the bass, the guitars, they all have their own mastering. Why do we do that? Because bass reacts much different than drums does, than does guitar, than does vocals. So what you do is you collect them together, you EQ and compress them together using settings that are conducive to those instrument types or vocals or whatever, and essentially you're pre-mastering each thing on a bus level. You should really check out my tabs video because it kind of explains how that all happens and how to set that up in Logic. But now that I've done that, you can see I have the drums on a drum bus that have compression and EQ. Bass has its own compressor on it. Guitar has compression and EQ on it. The synths have their own compressors, and the vocals have their own compression, EQ, and a vocal plugin on them. Now you'll note I have nothing in the mastering chain here, and my stereo out is at 0. So what I want to first do is test to make sure that my overall level of my track is not too loud, because if it's already hitting 0, then you add mastering and it's just going to get distorted. Ideally, I like it to be -3 to -6. So let's see what that sounds like without any mastering on it. Okay, this is really nice, healthy level. It's like -5-ish. That's great because it gives us some headroom, so when we do add mastering plugins that are going to add some level and some loudness to this, it's not going to just be slammed. There's a whole side conversation that we can have on the loudness wars, and if you just slam something, does it really make it better or just does it make it louder? And a lot of times it just makes it more distorted, but I digress. Let's just go on with this. Now that I know my levels are safe, I'm going to engage Logic's mastering plugin. So it says click to add mastering assistant. So I'm just going to click it. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up the plugin, and the plugin is going to analyze the whole track and figure out what the EQ curve is for this track based upon some algorithms that are in this plugin. So this is what it yields as the result. And at first glance, you're like, oh, okay, so it's give me some low end and it's ducked out around 700, and it also ducked down around 8K. So it is assuming that that is going to sound good. If we just listen to that in that same spot now. You know what you gotta do. Take these hands. Now you can see it's peaking at -1, and I don't know if it has a setting of where it wants to peak, but really I am looking at this plugin and going, okay, well, what are my choices here? Well, I can add some loudness, I can excite the track, I can make it wider, or I can take out the custom EQ if I don't like what it decided to do.
Hey there, sinking in the sand. Need someone to listen and help you.
So you can A/B this and see what it does. But I think the danger in this plugin is once you get to this point over here, and you're like, man, I just want it to be louder. It's set. So I'm going to turn up the loudness. Yeah, man, that's great. What does excite do? Let's make this exciting. Oh yeah, it's brighter now. Oh, let's make this wider.
The situation's worth getting over.
Now I can already hear, all right, maybe I've gone a little too far here, but I can already hear it's starting to break apart. It's just like starting like to be like a frying pan here. And an important feature they put in this plugin is loudness compensation. The reason for this is often we compress things or we make things louder and we think, yeah, louder is better, but louder is not necessarily better. So what this does is it compensates so you can hear exactly what the plugin's doing when you bypass it. So let's just engage that now. Okay, now I'll take the plugin out. I don't know about you, but when I disengage the plugin, it sounds a lot cleaner. So let me back off the excite. Let me back off the loudness. Maybe I'm being a little egregious in my usage of this plugin. But realistically, that's what people look at. They're like, oh, loudness, oh, excite, oh, spread. This is going to be great. Okay, without the plugin, now with the plugin. Okay, it's not exactly a horrible result. It's good if you don't be too egregious with the knobs and stuff, but I'm going to suggest something different because this is just meant as an assistant and it doesn't necessarily have compression. And the other thing I don't really like about this button is like you click anywhere else, like, can I adjust any of this stuff? What can I do here? It's just like, I can't do much. I can hit this knob, I can hit this button, I can hit this knob, I can A/B it, I can turn the EQ on and off. If I turn the EQ back on, how does that feel? And out. See, to me, it makes this mix a little bit more woofy. Like, there's like a going on there. Can you hear that? Not engaged. But overall, it's not a horrible result. I'm going to show you something that I think might work better. So what we're going to do is we're going to bypass this. And really, what is a mastering chain? A mastering chain is a couple of things. Number one, it's usually a compressor or a multi-compressor that is going to compress the areas of the track that need that special detail. Number two, it's an EQ for the overall vibe of the track. And lastly, it's always going to be a limiter. And especially in the digital world, you want to put a limiter on that is peaking under 0. I usually do 0.1 under 0. And that way I know that it's going to be fairly slammed, but it is not going to go over 0 where it's just going to cut off the track and start doing aliasing and weird glitchy things. So the first thing I'm going to use in this is Logic's very own multi-pressor compressor. This has been around for a long time. It probably needs an update, but hey, it's pretty good still. And what this does is this is a 4-band or 3-band or 2-band, you can choose, but I'm going to use Fast Attack 4-band as a starter. And the other thing I like about this, you can solo each area. So you can kind of custom tailor the range of where it's coming in, where it's getting compressed, how much you can compress in each area. And then it almost acts as a little bit of a gain change EQ, if you will. So what we're going to do is just hear what that sounds like by itself, just using this stock setting. Let's bypass it. So it's bringing up some of those levels. Now what I like to do is actually go and find the areas. So I'm going to solo the low end first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the attack to be larger and the release to be quicker. And I really want to compress this a bit more, really to get that bass happening. And you can see, you can actually change the frequency range just by the slider here. So it's actually a pretty cool little feature. Really, I want this just for the kind of kick. All right, it's giving me that nice kick sound. So I'm going to go to the next area. And I'll use this for the low end of guitars and bass. So I'm just adjusting some of this. You know, the funny thing is, sometimes you just gotta mess with knobs and do what sounds right. I think in compressors, those are very difficult plugins to kind of master. And so sometimes you're just rolling things around like, oh yeah, this sounds good. All right, now we're gonna address the vocal area. And you can see when you do the gain change, it kind of works almost like an EQ of each compressed area. And this is gonna be my sizzle up top. Now, I don't always have to go up. I can go down. I can start with this as the bass line and go down. But I think I'm just kind of messing with this, and I'm like, I kind of like the sound, but now look what's happened. My stereo out is 6 dB too hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the output of this, and I'm going to just adjust it that 6 dB minus, so it's not hitting so hard. Let's see what that does. See, when you're mastering something, you definitely want some movement up here. You don't want it just slammed. If you have it slammed, that's not a good thing. So I'm going to take it down just a hair more because I'm still adding some stuff to this. So let's see what this does here. Okay, I think that sounds pretty good, and we're hitting 0, so it's not really too egregious hitting 0 too much. We can always add a little bit more if we want to. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a simple EQ over the top of this. And let's just use the stock Logic channel EQ. And usually what I like to do with this is I like to do a little smile. So I'll give a little warmth on the bottom, and I'll give a little sizzle on top, and I'll keep the mids kind of down at 0. Really, you could just adjust these two things. It's really a choice. Anything below 60 is not very helpful. Instead of using a shelf on the low end, what you could do is you could just use some sort of bell just to get that low end kind of happening. Let's see what this sounds like. Know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have to face this struggle alone. 'Cause we are here. You're not on your own. Take So really I'm adding a little air here, and I'm adding a little bit of pump on the low end, right around the kick drum area. Know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Bypass it. And you can hear the air just gives a little bit more clearness on the top, and the bottom end just gives it a little bit more warmth. Know what you gotta do. out and in. Okay, so that feels pretty good. I'm not slamming it too hard. The final step in this process is to put a limiter on it. Why do you need a limiter? Because once again, you want to make sure that you do not go over 0 in the digital world because it just cuts the file off. So I'm going to use Logic's adaptive limiter here. Now you'll see this is preset to 3 dB gain. I don't necessarily want to do that, but the thing that I want to do is have my out ceiling just below 0. I actually do 0.1 negative. Optimal look ahead I'll apply, which is 20 milliseconds, and let's just see what that sounds like with the gain.
Know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem. 'Cause we are here. You're not a...
Where you can see the reduction is doing, anytime it hits over, it's bringing that down so it stops it from going above 0.
Gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem.
Now there is one more step in this process that I like to do just to make sure that we are in a good area as far as overall mix, and that's just a multimeter analyzing the whole thing.
Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business.
Because ideally we want to be at -12 loudness, and that is pretty much where it's at. So let's check this out again.
Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem. 'Cause we are here. You're not on your own. Take that.
Yeah, it's just about perfect actually. It's really just exactly where I want to be is -12 on that LUFS. Lufs, and that is exactly where I want to be. So that is perfect. So what we've done here is we've actually listened to the track with our own ears using the instruments that are in our tracks, and we've monitored and made sure that we stay at about -12 overall loudness using this multimeter. But we've compressed the entire track nicely using that 4-band compressor and actually listening to each area and making sure it's doing what we want it to do. Then adding a little high end and a little low end just to kind of give it some air and give it a little bit more boost on the low end. And then finally made sure that it didn't go over 0 using that adaptive limiter, but still maintaining some of that loudness. So what I'd like to do now is actually listen to the difference between the mastering plugin of Logic and what we just did. So we'll do a little A/B on that. So first what we did,
You know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around.
okay, so now let's listen to the same part with the Logic Mastering Assistant.
He's ahead of you. You know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem.
Okay, let's listen to it again with what we did.
Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem. 'Cause we are here. You're not on your own. The situation's worth getting over.
For me, using the individual plugins are a much better solution. What I'm hearing out of the mastering plugin is starting to get a little distorted, a little woofy, a little... I don't know. Do you hear that? Let's listen to it again. One more time.
Know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground.
I hear like a... and it's not really giving it that, but it's giving that kind of vibe versus what we have here.
Know what you gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around.
Really, at the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that our overall loudness is at -12 using that multimeter, and I think we've achieved that, and we've custom tailored exactly every element of this mix that is our own mix to what sounds right and compressed each little area.
Gotta do. Take this hand to pull you off of the ground. Things are gonna turn around. Don't have a business problem. 'Cause we
See, I dig this hand-tailored mastering a lot better. It didn't take much more time, and we were not enticed by the buttons and knobs of like, yeah, more loudness, more spread, more excitement. At the end of the day, we had a hand in making the mix the best that it possibly could be. So what do you think? Do you think that the mastering assistant that Logic has is a good plugin? It's something that you use? Or do you think using the other tactic of using those individual plugins to custom tailor your mastering for your project is a better solution? I want to know. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and click that bell icon to be notified of future videos, and follow me on Instagram at GGabrielMusic. Till next time, this is George Gabriel Music.